اصغر سے اور تم سے بہلتا تھا میرا غم، اب نا امید ہو گئے دونوں طرف سے ہم، دکھیارے میرے دکھ کی صدا کھائیں گے ستم، تقدیر کیسی پھر گئی مجھ خستہ حال کی، وہ 6 مہینے کے گئے تم 4 سال کی، بانوں کے بین سن کے حرم روئے بے شمار، سن کر یہ قل پکارا یزید جفا شیار، بھجوایا شیخا سر بھی اور ان کو نہیں قرار، آئی خبر کے باپ پہ بیٹی ہوئی نثار، ایسی کسی کی موت نہ ہوگی زمانے میں، سیدانی بے کفن ہے پڑی قید خانے میں، مردے کا پردہ کرتا ہے بانی جفا، مردہ جو شب کو دفن ہوا اس سے فائدہ، اے بے حیا غریب کی میت کا اٹھنا کیا پرواہ، شامیان زری نہیں ذرا، خیرات کو نہ لالنا یا خود چاہیے، ننھی سی خبر چھوٹا سا تابوت چاہیے، اللہم صلی اللہ محمد وعلی محمد۔ بارہ الہ ہماری اخیر سی بات کو قبول کر، ہمارے گناہ کبیرہ و صغیرہ کو بخش دے، ہمیں جو بیمار ہیں ان کو شفاء کامل عطا ہو، بالخصوص میری والدہ کو شفاء کامل عطا ہو، ہم کو اور ہماری اولاد کو صحیح اسلام پر چلنے کی توفیق دے، مملکت اسلام کو، مرجع اکرام کو، مقامات مقدسہ کو اپنے حفظ ایمان میں، جہاں جہاں مومنین یا کووڈ کی بیماری سے بیمار ہیں ان کو شفاء کامل عطا ہو، تاجیل فما ظہور خائمہ۔ آپ لوگوں سے گزارش ہے کہ آج کے اسپانسرز کے ارواح کے لیے سورہ فاتحہ پڑھیں۔ بسم اللہ۔
Inshallah. All right, good. So inshallah, we're going to start the majlis with Maulana Syed Asad Jafri.
Hello. One thing before we start the majlis, the volume on this is quite low, so I would advise everyone to raise their volume for the speech. Other than that, thank you. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Mohammed, please enable your computer volume.
الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد، اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم وآل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين صاحب العصر والزمان خليفة الرحمن إمام الإنس والجان، ولعن الله وعداهم أجمعين إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله وقوله الحق، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر وتؤمنون بالله، صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the continued tawfiq to commemorate and remember the grief and the sacrifice of Imam Hussein, his family, and his companions, alayhim salam. And on a personal note, it would have been ideal for me to be there with all of you in Detroit there at Zainabia. But unfortunately, of course, situations right now don't allow us to be together in person. This is the next best option. The month of Muharram now has passed, and the month of Safar is now upon us. And with the month of Safar now, the gham and the grief and the tragedy of the Ahlul Bayt does not end. Safar is a month that is filled with very devastating dates, ones that are heartbreaking, no doubt. And I'm with you for the next 2 nights, inshallah, today and tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday. And I wanted to, naturally in 2 days, it's very tough to get through any topic, but I did want to examine a little bit of Imam Hussein's message and his mission, 20 days now removed from the day of Ashura. And it's important that we revive now some of the key principles of why Imam Hussein did what he did on the plains of Karbala. He made it a point, if you examine many of his khutbahs and his sermons from the moment he left Medina and Mecca towards Kufa, he made a point to remind everybody, including those who are with him, that the purpose of all of this, the purpose of this entire mission is not for fame or for fortune or for government or for power or for anything else. I'm going for the islah of the ummah of my grandfather, the reform of the nation of my grandfather. And part of that reform is the revival of 2 very important concepts that I want to expand on today and tomorrow, and that's Amr bin Ma'ruf and Nahi anil Munkar. Now, a lot has been said, and I know that the ulama that come in and out of Zainabia have for sure spoken about this topic, but it is one that I refer to as the forgotten wajibat. Let's remind ourselves, the 10 furu'id that we learn in Sunday school and madrasa, right? 2 of them are Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi anil Munkar. Now we memorize them as in joining the good and forbidding the evil, but there's an entire philosophy here behind these 2 very important acts, especially in this day and age, where we live in a very me-centric and a me and an I generation. Islam now, through these 2 obligations, is reminding us that you belong to a social fabric. You belong to a collective nature. And if you look out for each other, then the success is not only yours, but the deen's altogether. Unfortunately, it makes it hard for us to do that. Because, like I said, we have been kind of trained and it's been kind of shoved down our throat that this is an individualistic society. Spirituality, especially, God, worship, religion, are all very, very personal realities. And we have no business, we have no right to infiltrate, to come in and speak about anyone else's path to God. Okay? And therein lies the problem. And it is a problem. Yes, no doubt, and you have heard me enough. In my first Ashra, I spoke about collectivism. No doubt, there is this idea of the individualism inside the deen. The deen sometimes is very, very individualistic. Examples I've given before, I get phone calls from individuals that tell me that my mother is very old, Maulana. She can't pray salat anymore. She has to pray, for example, sitting down or even lying down sometimes. Is it possible that while she's still alive, I can pray for her, I can pray her salat on her behalf? And the answer is no, you can't. So long as there's breath inside of anyone, they have to pray on their own. The moment that their eyes close and they move on to the next journey, of course, at that moment, then yes, we do everything we can to, to make up those missed prayers. But as long as a person is alive, this is an individual act of worship that has to be performed by the individual. And that's why in the fiqh of salat, in any state that you're in, even to the point where all you can do is blink your eyes, then those blinking of the eyes becomes your ruku, your sujood, your entire salat. That's how individualistic the deen is. Other examples I've given. You and your extended family are out in a picnic, let's say, an all-day picnic at the park. You're there with your wife and your husband and your kids and your brother's family and your sister's family and then your extended cousins and your family friends. And it's just a big, big, big party at the park. The kids are playing, mashallah. You're throwing the ball around. The barbecue is going strong. And it's time for salat, right? And you have water bottles for wudu. The deen is so individualistic sometimes that nobody can sit there and pour the water for you while you do wudu. You can't sit there and ask your brother, look, can you just pour the water while I do it? No, you have to pour the water yourself. What's the big deal? It's just water. Well, I said, no, it's not just water. Even wudu is a very individualistic act of worship. I get it. But those principles are very specific to very specific acts of worship and cannot be sprayed all over the deen. Okay? And part of this revival of collectivism and society at large, we have to begin to look out for each other. Is this idea that where you see somebody going towards good and towards righteousness, you hop along and you encourage them in that. Where you see somebody straying off the path, you also grab them and say, look, where are you going? Right? Amr bil ma'ruf and nahi anil munkar are obligations that are conditional. Okay? Now I have a lot to throw at you guys in 2 nights, and I'm going to do my best to arrange my thoughts and organize them accordingly, but it might be scattered. There's a lot to say, and I know I'm talking a mile a minute right now, but there's a lot to say. And I want to make sure that I get through all of it in these next 2 nights. The first thing is that you should know, and all of you know, these are just reminders for all of you, of the various wajibats that we have inside of our furu'ideen. From salat through hajj, from khums to zakat, from amr bil ma'ruf, from tawalla to tabarra. All of those, some of them are conditional in terms of their obligation. Others are not. Right? For example, salat, namaz for men is unconditional. At all times, it's wajib on you. There's never a moment where for a male, namaz is not wajib on you. Okay? But the same man that namaz in the harahal is wajib, it's not like that for hajj. Hajj is only wajib when you are capable of going to hajj, financially, physically. For example, this year, I had every intention of going to hajj. Everything was planned. Then COVID hit. Right? And that blocked me from my hajj. So even though I was financially able, physically able, everything was set, I had my babysitters lined up for my kids. The situation was that Saudi canceled hajj for outsiders. Okay? So now all of a sudden I'm not capable of going to hajj. It doesn't become wajib on me anymore. This year at least. Okay? Fasting, for example, you're traveling X amount of days, X amount of distance, you can't fast. You're sick, you're not well, it's not wajib on you. Okay? And amr bil ma'ruf and nahi anil munkar is also like that. That's the first point I want to make as a very simple reminder to all of you. There are a lot of people in our communities, in our families that are the sharia police. And they leave a horrible taste in everyone's mouth. They're the ones that call out everything. This is haram. What are you doing? That's haram. Wait a second. Now, that's not how the deen works. Okay? These 2 wajibats, the idea of promoting good and not promoting evil. Okay? And how we carry out these 2 obligations are conditional. What is that condition? For example, there's an individual who has posted something on social media. Okay? That has left a bad taste in your mouth. Okay? Either they posted a song, or they posted an inappropriate picture, or I don't know, the language they use in their tweets, for example, is not right. Promoting, let's say, for example, a company, a business, a hashtag that actually has another ulterior motive that's actually quite destructive towards the deen, and you want to say something. The first condition the deen is asking you to meet is examine the relationship between you and the person you want to speak to. That's the first thing. Very crucial. If that person is someone who is influenced by you, or you're close with, or they have your ear, you have their ear, meaning that if you say something, they won't question your intention. You actually have recognized, and you've done enough analysis to know that, look, I'm close enough with this person to tell them that, look, what you posted wasn't right. If I were you, I take it down. Do you know what that hashtag means, for example? Do you think that that photo you posted, let's say on Instagram or on Snapchat, is an actual proper photo that should be shared publicly, for example? If we are able to analyze the fact that this person will listen to me, then it becomes wajib on us. Wajib, guys. Not mustahab, not dissonant, wajib on us. Wajib on us. But the moment that you feel like, you know what, not only will this person not listen to me, if I say something, it might make things worse, then actually it becomes wajib on you to remain quiet. Yeah. We're not going to be the sharia police and walking around and, fix your hijab and grow your beard thicker and loosen your jeans and don't post that and ye kya ho raha hai, tum kya karo. Wait a second, that's not the deen now. That's nowhere in any of our books is that how the Prophet established the deen, how the Imams spread the deen, how the ulama tell us to go out and guide the masses. Absolutely not. The Imams and the Prophet of Allah, all of them were all approachable beings, balanced beings, realistic individuals. They were able to recognize the capacity of the person, right? 4 different people come to Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, and they ask the exact same question to Imam Sadiq. 4 people, the exact same question. He gives 4 different answers. 4 different answers. Now, the companions with Imam Sadiq says, Ya Ibn Rasulullah, it was the exact same question. Why not give the exact same answer to all 4? And look at the beautiful, balanced response of Imam Sadiq. He says, I responded to the person according to their capacity to understand the answer. What we don't judge sometimes, and it's very difficult to judge, I get it, is the capacity of the deen of the person in front of me. And that's why sometimes, individuals who want to be close to the centers and the communities and the masjid, they're tired of the judgment. So they don't come. And in the process now, they've made their religion a very sheltered religion. I don't need people, especially during this pandemic time. I've said this enough times from the first of Muharram until now. My fear is, and it's a legit fear I have, is that when this pandemic is over and then the centers open up again and hopefully now we're able to get to some normalcy afterwards, my fear is that our younger generation simply won't see a need for the building. And say, look, man, for 5-6 months, man, I've been getting virtual knowledge, sitting on my couch, very, very, very comfortable. Right now, a lot of you are on your couch, responsible. Comfortable. You have your drinks in your cup holders. You're sitting with your spouse, beside your spouse. You never get that opportunity, right? You're dressed in your cozy, comfortable clothing. There's no commute. There's no parking. There's no judgment. There's no yelling. There's no screaming. There's no, aren't you pregnant yet? Why aren't you married yet? You don't have a job yet? None of that stuff. No, I'm in my home. I turn off Asad and I go straight to bed. Beautiful, right? Beautiful. Right? And then we get a little bit comfortable with this setup. This is not how it should be, guys. I'm sorry. I should be there in Detroit. I should be there in Detroit. I should be on the mimbar in Zainabia. I should be reciting the majlis, and then I should be going to Dearborn to get a nice sub or a burger or something, right? That's how I should. It should be right now. After my majlis, I should be going to, I don't know, Famous Burger or whatever the burgers places are in Dearborn. I shouldn't be sitting right now in Toronto coming to you, over this platform. That's not how it should be. So don't get too comfortable now. There is an immense amount of beauty in connecting yourself to the building. Okay? Don't let some uncle or some auntie that says things now in good niyat now, right? We're stuck on the tone now. Good niyat now. They're trying to help us out. Leave a distaste in your mouth for the entire community. Okay? We need that social interaction with our people. We need to break some bread and have a cup of tea with our people, check in every so often, once a week, if not twice a month, whatever the case may be, to ensure that, we have that connection. Okay? Don't get used to this virtual idea. Don't get used to it, please. Now, so the first thing is conditional. It's conditional. Okay? We're not going to sit there and we're not going to approach and blast everybody, nor are we going to sit there and, talk, and not everyone wants to hear it. Not everybody wants to hear it. You have to establish the fact that, okay, if I've established, Asad, that this person now is doing something wrong, continuously doing something wrong, and I'm not close to them, what do? Either you do it indirectly or you pray for them. How do I do it indirectly? For example, let's say, for example, there's a Q&A session happening. Okay? Q&A session. You're there. The person that you want to get the message to is also there. So what do? You ask the alim a question whose answer you want them to hear. Happens all the time. With the hopes that maybe when they hear the answer, it might click. If that's not possible, and of course in this pandemic, virtual COVID world, on the musalla, pray that inshallah Allah guides them. Okay? And mind you, this is not in a judging way. Not at all. Not at all. The verse I read from Surah Ali Imran, a very, very famous verse, Allah says, you are the greatest nation. Kuntum khayra ummatan. From all of the nations, you are the greatest nation. And what makes you the greatest nation is that you look out for each other. تؤمرون بالمعروف وتنحون عن المنكر وتؤمنون بالله. You look out for each other, you save each other from the hellfire, from the pits of hell, from destruction, and all of you collectively believe in God. Those are the elements of a successful nation. Not my individual worship, not my individual hajj, not my individual khums, none of that. Us collectively now have to be able to do that properly. Okay? We have to begin to create a culture of brotherhood and sisterhood, where now we have to be able to use the proper words to guide people, and we have to be able now to hear someone tell me, you need to fix your hijab, sister. You need to, watch out what you post, right? You need to you need to be a little bit careful with how you speak and the words that you use, right? We can't be so sensitive. We live in a very sensitive era, man. You can't say anything to anybody anymore without somebody, oh, who are you, Captain Islam? No one claims to be Captain Islam. You should be thankful there's a voice, somebody looking out for my hereafter. They're not doing it, to embarrass me and make me look bad. They're legitimately doing it to protect me from the edge of the cliff, from the brink of hellfire. There's a story, sometimes after one of the wars in Islam, the Prophet of Allah now, he's taking these POWs, right, these prisoners of war. And there was one man, of course, who was part of Abu Sufyan's army. It's such a beautiful story. And this man now was captured by the Muslim army, right? By the Prophet and his army. Now, there's a whole discussion on how he treated these prisoners of war. It's not like what you do today, right? There weren't any jails. No, of course not. In fact, the Prophet would use these prisoners of war who were educated in Mecca to educate the Muslims. Okay? So, and this notion now of this prisoner of war walking with the Prophet now back towards Medina, the Prophet is smiling, and this individual is really, really upset. The Prophet's smiling, and he turns to the Prophet and says, I heard you are rahmatul lil alameen. You're merciful, you're loving, you're compassionate, you're so approaching. You're actually enjoying the fact that I'm a prisoner of war. It doesn't befit your character. He said, I'm not enjoying the moment that you're a prisoner of war. He said, you right now, you have, your hands are tied right now. And with your hands tied now, I'm dragging you towards heaven. And you don't even realize it. You think that, this person wants to sit there and enjoy the fact that I'm being tortured. And sometimes we have to adopt that mentality when it comes to people, especially those who have earned their stripes with us. Close friends, close family, our siblings, our spouses, our in-laws, you know that their niyat is good, it's pure. If they come to you and say, look, honestly, man, when you're angry, you'll just let loose. You got to watch yourself. Be a little bit better than that. The instant reaction is what? The instant reaction is, what about you? Wait a second, that's not the instant reaction, right? I mean, it's natural, I get it, right? I mean, you're in a boxing ring, and you're in a corner, for example. This guy's pounding you, giving you body shots, right? And you're stuck in a corner. The instant reaction is to come out swinging when you're cornered, right? Turn the offensive back onto them. Go from defensive to offensive, and now you feel good. Sometimes we're like that. If somebody comes and says, look, I've been noticing that lately your salat, for example, you do this in your namaz. You move a lot during alhamd. Don't move a lot. Try to be still. The one approach is, oh my God, thank you very much for perfecting my salat. The other one is, oh really? Have you seen your namaz? Why don't you focus on your own namaz? Forget my... That reaction comes from a very individualistic mentality. This person now is trying to bring me down. No one's trying to bring you down, Baba. We're giving you wings to fly towards Allah. Take the wings quietly and fly towards God. Why are we being so senti about these things? If someone is calling you out, someone you know and you love and you respect, who equally loves and respects and knows you, then take it. Let's not be those thin-skinned. Let's be confident in our worship and say thank you very much. Say thank you very much. So the first point I want to make tonight as an open discussion, and tomorrow inshallah I'll also talk about the idea of organized religion in the scope of all this Amr bil Ma'ruf, is the idea that we have to now understand that there are people out there, and we should be thankful for those people out there that are out there to make our deen better, to perfect our deen. Right? When we help each other out, the collective deen, of course, strengthens in general. When the deen strengthens, I strengthen as a Muslim. Right? When the team, of course, is flying towards the idea, if the team is to win, let's say, for example, an NBA championship, right? When it comes to the ring ceremony, not only is the guy whose jump shot I fix gets a ring, but I get a ring as well. And partly because he hit the winning shot. I helped him with his jump shot in practice. Same idea. When we begin to kind of help these individuals, the team of the deen begins to win. Okay? I've seen too many times, and it bothers me, too many times where somebody is trying to make the person better, talking about hijab, talking about this and that, and I wish people would mind their own business. I don't wish people would mind their own business. Yes, I'm not saying to become the sharia police. Pull over, your bangs are showing. Wait a second now. Right? That's not the approach. Okay? I remember I went to one community. This is years ago now. Years ago. After the majlis, after I was done my majlis, a lot of people were leaving during matam. Okay, it happens sometimes, right? You have to get back to work, get to school. It's become a late night, and there was one person at the door, literally at the door of the exit of the mosque, screaming at the people, "Where are you going? It's time for matam. Imam Hussein gave his life so you grieve for him. It's part of the process. You're leaving ibadat. You're doing zulm against Imam Hussein. Stop. Nothing is more important than write down matam." And first night, second night, third night, every night this brother, and he was a young guy, passionate, right, of course. And I had to pull him aside, go, look, this is not the approach. You're not going to get your results. This is not what Amr bin Ma'ruf and Nahi anil Munkar, because he said, I'm just doing my wajibat. This is not your wajibat, my brother. This is not the way that the deen is now being forced down people's throat. Absolutely not. You give them options, say, look, this is what you build that relationship, and then you say, look, I've been noticing this. And then they're willing to accept that from you. Okay? So let's be, smart about this. It's a two-sided coin, right? The first side is that how I approach individuals, how I guide them, how I help them. The second is how I accept that help as well. Okay? Let's not be so defensive. It only happens when we see me and God as me and God alone. Okay? Shouldn't matter to anybody else. I've seen too many times, where the father in the house, or the elder in the house, or one person in the house, mashallah, is very, very pious to everybody else, but not pious to the ones inside the home. Has the respect of the entire community. Does not miss one single program. But inside the home, he's a tyrant. He's a fir'aun. But hey, he's got a nice long beard. He's got a nice sajda nishani on his forehead. Recites salams, marsiyas, nohas, qurans, dua kumel beautifully. You ask his kids, he's a tyrant, Mulana, inside of our home. That's not someone who is understanding the comprehensive social fabric of the deen. Absolutely not. Okay? So many, I've seen too many youth now. They're sitting there, they're watching their best friends, their siblings, sometimes their spouses, sometimes, this and that, their cousins, post disgusting, ridiculous, horrible things on social media. They know it's wrong, and they're quiet. And then when I asked them, why don't you say something? Because they'll ask me, can you address this on the minbar? I go, look, I can. But why can't you address it directly to your first cousin, to your sibling, to your spouse, right? To your childhood friend? Why can't you address that directly? And the common answer is that if I call them out, Malana, they'll call me out. That's the problem. That's the problem. We don't want to be called out, right? So if I sit there and say, look, you're doing 1, 2, 3 wrong. Yeah, you're doing 8, 9, 10 wrong as well. So how about you take off the Captain Taqwa off your chest, and don't worry about me and my hijab and what I'm posting and the amount of makeup I have on and, the song I posted and, the shot I have with this cigarette in my hand and that in my hand and this in my hand. Forget all that and worry about you and your hereafter, buddy. Okay? These are what? These are close friends of ours, siblings of ours, cousins of ours. Right? So out of fear of the fact that they might call me, I'm quiet. I sit there and I watch this man now post destructive things on their social media, and I'm quiet simply out of the fear that I don't want to be called out. Okay? That's not a criteria. The criteria is not for you to be perfect, right? To help somebody out. sometimes, you know, as you help others, you're helping yourself. Look, the example my teacher used to always give me is that, you know, the earth rotates on its own axis, correct? It has its own rotation. In the state of its own rotation, it's rotating around the sun. So there's two rotations the earth goes through, right? It standalone on its own axis is rotating by itself, not that fast, otherwise, you know, there'd be a problem. In that state now, it's rotating around the sun. Okay? In this lifelong discussion, how do I better myself, Asad, how do I better myself, how do I better myself, part of you bettering yourself is attempting to better others. It really is. Provided you hear the advice of what the person, what you're giving this person. You don't want to be a hypocrite, right? You don't want to say, yeah, you know what, smoking is really bad for you. You should never, never smoke. It's not good for you. Okay? Or, you know, you should really, like, you know, you should really, wear a hijab. It's really, you know, you shouldn't show your hair to men. Meanwhile, it's flowing in the wind, mashallah. Right? You really should have a beard at 20. And meanwhile, he just shaved in a parking lot. 10 seconds, you can see the glow off of his face from the fresh shave. Right? That's hypocritical. No one likes a hypocrite. Right? If someone sees that you're struggling, at the same time you're also helping me struggle, then they might accept it. Okay? Embrace that help from everybody else. Okay? But let's do it properly. Look, I'll give you one example. One example. Might be a bad example, but you're bear with me. All of you know me now in Detroit. I have that, you know, I've earned my stripes with all of you, inshallah. The Prophet of Allah in Medina. And one of the things I really want us to understand from the Prophet of Allah, and by extension the Ahlul Bayt, were that they were approachable. Approachable, approachable. Young man now in the streets of Medina. The Prophet's walking one time. And he sees a young man surrounded by a few girls. And he says, how's it going, young man? Everything okay? A young man now sees the Prophet of God walking to him, and he's surrounded by, a few young women, and he says, good, Ya Rasulullah, things are well. He says, I've lost my donkey. And I've heard that women are good at finding donkeys. So I'm asking for their help. It's okay. I hope you find your donkey, inshallah. The next day, the same boy with now a different set of girls around him, and the Prophet now walks past him, and the Prophet now looks at him, smiles, how are you? Good. Have you found your donkey yet? He says, no, Rasulullah, I'm still looking for my donkey. Okay. Hope you find your donkey. The young man now is sitting in the masjid of Rasulullah. In walks the Prophet, sits right beside him. Okay? Now he knows. Here it comes. The Prophet leans over to him and says, have you found your donkey? How's the search going? With his head down, he says, Ya Rasulullah, you know that I don't have a donkey. I never lost my donkey. He says, I know. He goes, so why wouldn't you say anything to me at that spot? On that moment, the Prophet's response, he says to him that I know you don't have a donkey. I know you didn't lose it, but I didn't want to embarrass you in front of everybody. It's better if you drop this lifestyle. It's not becoming of someone like you. Okay? Look at the approach. Sometimes if I was to see something like that in the parking lot of Zainabia, let's say, for example, there'd be a shouting match. What's wrong with you? Sitting here with the... But that's, it's not the way of the Prophet of Allah. But to revive that sunnah. He did Amr bin Maruf, but he still hung on to the dignity of the human being. Okay? The dignity of the human being. And that's what it is. And that's the key elements. Okay, and in this first lecture tonight and tomorrow, I have a very crucial discussion as well. And I'm only going to speak about 45 minutes with Masaib. I want to make sure I give Bibi Sakina her due Masaib, inshallah. And that is that, why is it so hard for us to embrace someone calling us out, it's not because we're mad at them. We're actually upset that the very things that I know I'm deficient in is now being called out by somebody external from me. Understand my point. I know that I do A, B, and C wrong. I get it. I know I do that. In the heart of my hearts, I know. We all know where we are deficient. And so long as it stays within our internal kingdom, I'm good. I can put on a brave face outside while I'm working on my demons on the inside. Along comes anybody. Could be my spouse, my sibling, my child, my parent, my first cousin, my grandmother. And now what they do is they take out those inner deficiencies and they show them to me. This is what you're doing wrong, beti. This is what you're doing wrong, beta. Fix this. And those very deep-rooted secrets that you thought were inside of me now, all of a sudden now have become known to the ones that who are very near and dear to you. Sometimes it's easier that a stranger comes and tells you about it than the ones that are very close to you. But the difference is that you know the niyat of this person in front of you is khair. So we have to be confident in our deficiencies. I know that sounds weird. And we have to know that, look, there is this constant monotonous climb up the mountain. Sometimes that climb requires me to be able to know where I go wrong. Okay? There's a hadith that I want to mention to all of you, and then we'll move towards Masayib, I promise you. Imam Jafri Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, and please understand this, very, 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 very important. Alayhi salatu wasalam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. He says that when we move towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when we had that tawfiq, right? And a lot of us have gone through our journeys, right? We've gone through our childhood, we've gone through our high school, university life, blah, blah, blah. God kind of made sense to me back then. Now he's making more sense to me. Now I realize the importance of it. And I wish I had him deeper in my life when I was in high school, whatever the case may be. When that happens, when we move towards Allah and we begin now to cultivate a relationship with God, the first thing that God does, he makes us aware of our deficiencies. The first sign that God gives us of his acceptance of our love is that he makes us aware of our deficiencies. Now you would think, wait a second, no, that's kind of mean. Why would he do that? I just met you. I just reintroduced myself to you, God, and you in turn make me aware of my own deficiencies. And therein lies the individual sensitive nature that we live in today. We remove all those things. Understand that if God truly loves you, he wants to see you elevate. You can't elevate unless you clip the anchors. You can't clip the anchors unless you know the anchors, Baba. That's why Hadith says, if you have one friend who sits there and tells you where you are deficient, take that deficiencies, take those discussions as gifts from your friend. If you have a spouse who's constantly trying to make you better, pious-wise, it's time for Salat. Let's go pray Salat. Don't try to change me. You're not my mother. You're not my father. I know it's time for namaz. You have to tell me. I heard the adhan. I'll come when I'm ready. Baba, she's trying to make you a little bit of a pious individual. It's your wife. She loves you dearly. She knows that, if the wali and the leader of the family now gets up at the time of adhan, the entire family will follow along with him. Why are you fighting this? Embrace it. Thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you have somebody, a spouse, who just sit there and just kind of flame your ego and feed you grapes and, you are the king and you are perfect and all praise is due to you. Mirror, mirror on the wall. That's not what we're after. We're after this idea that we have to surround ourselves with people who are concerned about my development. Look, you're going off the path here. It's not good. And sometimes we don't even know. There's a beautiful dua that I recite in my qunut every single salat. At least one of my salats a day, I recite from Surah Ali Imran, verse number 8, I believe. رَبَّنَا لَا تُزِغْ قُلُوبَنَا بَعْدَ إِذْ هَدَيْتَنَا وَهَبْ لَنَا مِن لَدُنْكَ رَحْمَةً إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْوَهَّابُ. Very famous dua. Says, look what the dua says. رَبَّنَا, oh my Lord, oh our Lord, رَبَّنَا لَا تُزِغْ قُلُوبَنَا. Don't allow zigh to enter my heart. Zigh is an unknown deviation from the path. I'll explain in a moment. وَحَبْ لَنَا مِن لَدُنْكَ رَحْمَةً. And gift from us your mercy, your special mercy, such that, we come back onto the path. Look at what the verse says. Do not allow this deviation to enter our heart بَعْدَ إِذْ هَدَيْتَنَا. After you've already guided us. It's possible. It's possible that I'm on the path, I'm guided, I'm on the path, I'm guided. It's possible now for that deviation to enter my heart. We think that, you know what, I'm good now. I've gone through my horrible years. I'm back on track in terms of God. We let our guard down and the heart now deviates. The dua says, please Allah, don't allow this deviation to re-enter my heart after you've already guided me. Now what is zayg? What is zayg? The most beautiful definition I've seen of zayg, the example I'll give you is a grave digger. Sorry, it's a little bit of a gruesome, not gruesome, but a little bit of a scary example. A grave digger. The job of a grave digger is to dig a perfect rectangular grave, right? Now he's digging away, and he's assuming that it's a perfect rectangle. When he's done, he's got the head of the grave perfect, the side of the grave perfect, the foot perfect, but the other part curves. It curves. He had no idea. As he's digging, he thought, okay, I'm going straight, I'm good, I'm going straight, I'm going good. Now when he gets out of the grave and looks at his grave, he's like, uh-oh, one side is curved. That's unintentional, right? Sometimes we think we're going the path, and then we kind of eventually go this way. And we have no idea. And the further we go along, the further we are from our actual path. Okay? Until somebody comes and says, look, you've been off this path for many, many years. Come back onto this path. Like, oh my goodness, thank God you told me. I had no idea. I was steering, thinking, you know what, I'm good. I'm on the path. I'm doing good. Meanwhile, you're going to go, zig, and going forward. That's why I've always said, in order for us to protect ourselves from that unintentional deviation of the heart, we need to surround ourselves with two groups of people that are very key. Number one is our circle of influence, our friends. Our friends. I have always said this, every camp, every webinar, anytime I mention the idea that please, especially my young guys out there, surround yourself with good people. Please, guys. You're going to hang out on Friday night and grab some burgers? That's fine. That's okay. Go to Brahm, go wherever you want. Go to Jet for some subs, whatever you want to. Go to Al Amir's from some nice shish taouk. Go, that's fine. But make sure that your circle of influence is right. Make sure that you have good guys around you. That don't bring up the shaitan inside of you. That if they see you going this way, they say, look, bro, come back. You're going over here. Where have you been? What's going on with you? What's this post I see on social media? And the second thing is choose the right spouse. My last point in the Masayib. Choose the right spouse. Choose the spouse based on taqwa. Why taqwa? Taqwa. Wherever you see taqwa. People always ask me, what should I look for in a spouse? Baba, it's already been laid out for you. Taqwa, good family, education, compatibility, looks, all those things are very, very important. They're very important. Unfortunately, sometimes in our list, especially in our Desi Indo-Pakistani community, taqwa is all the number 37. First is gori, patli, dubli, tall, kya job karta hai, kitna kamata hai. She has to be fair, she has to have blue eyes, he has to be 6 foot something, he has to have a certain amount of, and I get the fact that income and job and all that is very important, but where's piety in all this? I've seen too many cases now, right? Too many cases that hurt me, that you have this individual now who's dripping piety from a very pious family. But maybe he's not as tall as you want him to be. Maybe his shade is one shade darker than you would want it to be. Maybe he's not a Syed. And you toss him out saying, no. But this guy in front of you, right, 6'3", for example, good build, fair skin, Syed, mashallah, but there was an ounce of piety inside of him. You'll say yes to him. It's a disservice. Because now when you live your life with all that, I'll give you one hadith. Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salatu wasalam. And I don't mean to steer off my path of Amr bin Ma'ruf. It's important. All these factors are all about Amr bin Ma'ruf. He says, when you marry somebody based on piety, wealth comes with that piety, beauty comes with that piety. When you marry for beauty and wealth and no piety, piety is gone, the beauty fades, the money runs out. Oh, what a beautiful hadith. I tell you, mark my words, if you make piety the criteria, that person on the inside will be beautiful. And the inner beauty will add to their already existing outer beauty. If both of you live a pious life, Allah has promised you rizq. وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبْ. Surah Talaq, verses 2 and 3. The ones who have taqwa, the ones who are God conscious, the ones who live a God-centric life, Allah will create an outlet for them. Give them a risk from a source they never even thought existed. One door closed, Asad Bhai. Another door I never thought was even a door opened up. I walked through. I've doubled my income. Subhanallah. All because why? Me and my wife, me and my husband are doing our best to live God-centric lives. Surrounding you, such that if I become, if I go off the path, I become like that grave digger where I think I'm digging straight. Meanwhile, I'm digging like off the path. Then I have my wife, I have my husband, I have my friends to pull me in and say, look, man, get yourself together. You've been dropping the ball a little bit. And because I know that they want the best for me, and I'm gonna take it as a gift, I'm gonna thank Allah for a wonderful spouse and amazing friends, and move forward. My brothers and my sisters, it's vital. It's absolutely vital that we understand the idea that in this era of individualism, right? This climb up the mountain of God has become increasingly difficult day in and day out. If we don't surround ourselves with a system where we have people helping me in my climb, then it becomes even a more daunting task. The deen was never meant to be me, myself, and God. It was always meant to be a collective movement towards God. Embrace that collectivism. When someone comes and tries to help you and give you wings, take the wings and fly and pray for them in the process. Don't fight it. No one's out to get you. No one's out to destroy you. No one has these ulterior motives, right? Just take it for face value. Thank you very much, Auntie. Inshallah, I'll do my best to make sure I pray. I wear proper hijab. Thank you very much, Uncle. I'll make sure that I'm not that loud during the adhan. Or I don't use such language, let's say, in the parking lot. No problem. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to my wife that when it's time for the adhan, she reminds me it's time for salat. I know it is. You're not my mother. That's not the response. The response is, thank you, my dear. Let's go pray salat together. I will lead, inshallah. Let's pray Jama'at. Beautiful. Correct? Because the sacrifice that Imam Hussein has made for all of these concepts is too severe, too drastic for us to throw it off to the side. All because of our ego or because of our sensitivity. We owe it to him and his loved ones and his family to be able now to live a life keeping that sacrifice in mind. And that's why these days of Safar are very, very important. Now, some of the sacrifices have been very difficult for Imam Hussein and his family. One of them, of course, is this well-documented relationship between Imam Hussein and his daughter, Bibi Sakina. Any one of you out there, my fathers in the audience who have daughters, I have two of them. The daughters are different than sons. Not better, not worse, they're different. They're softer, of course. You know, I remember I was taking my firstborn in my days in Iran. I was taking her into the Haram of Bima Saiqom. We hopped in a taxi. She was in my goat. She's playing with my beard. She must have been 4 or 5 years old, playing with my beard. You know, we were playing, you know, high-fiving, this and that. And the taxi was looking at us through the rearview mirror. And he looked back and he said, "Mashallah, Dokhtare Babai," he said. She's you know, a daddy's little girl, as you would say today. And Bibi Sakina, as written in the books, was Imam Hussein's little girl. Asri Ashur, Imam Hussein finally is mounted on the horse by Bibi Zainab. The Zuljana now is ready to move towards the Maqtal of Karbala, but the Zuljana does not move. Imam Hussein says, "Zuljana, I know you're tired. From morning to now, you've helped me carry mayat after mayat, body after body. A little bit more zahmat, drop me off to the Maidan of Karbala, and then your zahmat is over." But the horse wouldn't move. The horse wouldn't move. When after Imam Hussein was talking to the horse, it's at that moment the horse lowers its head, a tear rolling down his face, almost as if to say, "Mawla, I'm not tired. I will serve you for as long as I want. But your 4-year-old Sakina is holding my leg and saying, 'Baba, where are you going?' Asking me as your Zuljana, where are you taking my Baba? Imam Hussein gets off the horse, picks up his 4-year-old, holds her, kisses her. She says, Baba, where are you going? Why can't we go back to Medina? What would you tell your child if ever she was in a foreign land saying, Baba, I want to go home. Baba, let's go home. You do your best at that moment now to take her home. But my Muslim Imam didn't have that option. He says, I have to go now. Learn to sleep on someone else's shoulder. Learn to sleep on someone else's chest. It's at that moment that Bibi Sakina says to Zuljana, hey Zuljana, my Baba's very thirsty. My Baba's very tired. If you can't take him to Farad for a drop of water, if that Farad is closed, find an area of shade for my Baba to rest. I would say this to Sakina, enjoy that one last moment of your fathers. There'll come a time in the Zindan of Sham now, when Sheikh Abbas Qumi narrates, in the middle of the night in the Zindan of Sham, Bibi Sakina sees a dream. Standing in front of her is her father. He looks distressed. He looks upset. She says, Baba, is everything okay, Baba? You don't look well. And he says, you know how much of my heart is longing for you, Sakina. You know how much you are my Sakina. You are my sukoon. You are my comfort. No house is sukoon without my Sakina. I long for you. I miss you, my dear. At that moment, Imam Hussein begins to cry in the dream. Bibi Sakina begins to cry in the dream. She wakes up out of her dream, middle of the night. She begins to scream, where is my Baba? I can see my Baba. I can smell my Baba. Somebody please bring me my Baba. She begins to cry. Zainab begins to cry. Rabah begins to cry. The walls of the Zindan begin to cry. Yazid says, what is it? It's the daughter of Hussein. She's asking for Hussein, for her Baba. Send her the head. A 4-year-old brought the head of her father. Imam Hussein now is brought in front of Sakina. Sakina looks at the head of her father, begins to place her cheek against his cheek, says, Baba, who put these scars on your face, Baba? Why is there blood all over your head, Baba? What is this? As she clutches the head of Imam Hussein, she begins to cry and cry and cry until there's no sound from the Zindan of Sakina. The morning comes. Bibi Sakina, Bibi Zainab says, Sakina, it's time to wake up. Sakina, it's time to wake up. But there's no response from the Zindan of Sakina. Sajjad, go see what's happening. Sakina's not responding. Imam Sajjad enters the Zindan of Sakina, lying there in the same burnt kurta that she had from Asri Ashur, clutching the head of her father Hussein. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Bibi Zainab comes running. Imam Sajjad now begins to bury this 4-year-old Sakina. Bibi Zainab says, what do we do about the kafan? Do we take off the kurta or bury her like that? Imam Sajjad says, Pupi Allah, there's so many zakhm upon zakhm, scars upon scars from the head to the toe of Sakina. If I take off her kurta, I'm worried the zakhm might open and the blood might flow. They buried her just like that in the Zindan of Sham. سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. We ask you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to accept this qaleel ibadat, inshallah. We ask you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to weaken the hands of the enemies of humanity, to strengthen the mustaza'afin, and finally, Allah, the one dua that we have is make us worthy of the arrival of the Imam of our time. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Inshallah, we'll ask Brother Raza to read Noha. Matam Hussein.
जब याद सकीना को तेरी आती है बाबा, जब याद सकीना को तेरी आती है बाबा, सर जिंदा के दीवारों سے ٹکراتی ہے بابا جب یاد سکینہ کو تیری آتی ہے بابا جب یاد سکینہ کو تیری آتی ہے بابا کانوں سے تپکتا ہے لہو شانوں پہ میرے کانوں سے تپکتا ہے لہو شانوں پہ میرے ظالم کی اذیت ظالم کی اذیت مجھے تڑپاتی ہے بابا جب یاد سکینہ کو تیری آتی ہے بابا دربار یزیدی میں بھلا کیسے میں جاؤں دربار یزیدی میں بھلا کیسے میں جاؤں ہے چاک گریبان ہے چاک گریبان حیا آتی ہے بابا جب یاد سکینہ کو تیری آتی ہے بابا جلتے ہوئے خیموں کے نظارے ہیں نظر میں جلتے ہوئے خیموں کے نظارے ہیں نظر میں یہ بات خیالوں سے یہ بات خیالوں سے کہاں جاتی ہے بابا جب یاد سکینہ کو تیری آتی ہے بابا جب یاد سکینہ کو تیری آتی ہے بابا مر جاؤں گی پیاسی نہ کبھی مانگوں گی پانی مر جاؤں گی پیاسی نہ کبھی مانگوں گی پانی اصغر کی مجھے پیاس اصغر کی مجھے پیاس جو یاد آتی ہے بابا جب یاد سکینہ کو تیری آتی ہے بابا جب یاد سکینہ کو تیری آتی ہے بابا ہے کون میرے پاس جیوں کس کے سہارے ہے کون میرے پاس جیوں کس کے سہارے تنہائی میری موت تنہائی میری موت بنی جاتی ہے بابا جب یاد سکینہ کو تیری آتی ہے بابا سر زنداں کے دیواروں سے ٹکراتی ہے بابا جب یاد سکینہ کو تیری آتی ہے بابا یا حسین
Hussein. Thank you, Raza. Inshallah, Hassan, for Noha next.
یا رب کوئی معصوما زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو، یا رب کوئی معصوما زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو، یا رب کوئی معصوما زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو، یا رب کوئی معصوما زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو، یا رب کوئی معصوما زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو، یا رب کوئی معصوما زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو، یا رب کوئی معصوما زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو، یا رب کوئی معصوما زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو، یا رب کوئی معصوما زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو، یا رب کوئی معصوما زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو، یا رب کوئی معصوما زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو، یا رب کوئی معصوما زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو، یا رب کوئی معصوما زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو، یا رب کوئی معصوما زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو، پابند نہ ہوا ہے پابند نہ ہوا ہے، رونے پہ نہ ٹھہرا ہو، یا رب کوئی معصوما زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو، یا رب کوئی معصوما زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو، یا رب کوئی معصوما زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو، یا رب کوئی معصوما زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو، یا رب کوئی معصوما زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو، یا رب کوئی معصوما زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو، پابند نہ ہوا ہے پابند نہ ہوا ہے، رونے پہ نہ پہرا ہو، یا رب کوئی معصوما زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو، یا رب کوئی معصوما زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو، یا رب کوئی معصوما زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو، تھی جس کو نیند آتی شبیر کے سینے پر، تھی جس کو نیند آتی شبیر کے سینے پر، زندہ در زندہ ہے زندہ در زندہ، اس کے لیے قضا ہو، یا رب کوئی معصوما زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو یا رب کوئی معصومہ زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو یا رب کوئی معصومہ زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو یا رب کوئی معصومہ زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو
ٹکرائے نہ وہ کیوں سے زندہ کی دیواروں سے
ٹکرائے نہ وہ کیوں سے زندہ کی دیواروں سے بھائی سے اور پھوپھی سے اے بھائی سے اور پھوپھی سے کسی کو جدا کیا ہو یا رب کوئی معصومہ زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو یا رب کوئی معصومہ زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو یا رب کوئی معصومہ زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو یا رب کوئی معصومہ زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو یا
زندانوں سے آتی تھی آواز سسکنے کی
زندانوں سے آتی تھی آواز سسکنے کی جیسے کہ سکینہ کو اے جیسے کہ سکینہ کو ہر زندان رو رہا ہو یا رب کوئی معصومہ زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو یا رب کوئی معصومہ زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو یا رب کوئی معصومہ زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو یا رب کوئی معصومہ زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو
زندان میں اے نجفی یاد آئی سکینہ کی
زندان میں اے نجفی یاد آئی سکینہ کی کہہ رہا ہے اے دل رو رو کہہ رہا ہے اپنا اجالا ہو یا رب کوئی معصومہ زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو یا رب کوئی معصومہ زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو یا رب کوئی معصومہ زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو یا رب کوئی معصومہ زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو
جی جس کو نیند آتی شبیر کے سینے پر
جس کو نیند آتی شبیر کے سینے پر زندہ ہے زندہ ہے زندہ اس کے لیے قضا ہو یا رب کوئی معصومہ زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو یا رب کوئی معصومہ زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو یا حسین 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 تم سے بچھڑ کے ماں کا مشکل بہت ہے جینا ماں کو بھی ساتھ لے لو رک جاؤ اے سکینہ رک جاؤ اے سکینہ رک جاؤ اے سکینہ رک جاؤ اے سکینہ
تم سے بچھڑ کے ماں کا مشکل بہت ہے جینا، ماں کو بھی ساتھ لے لو، رک جاؤ اے سکینہ، رک جاؤ اے سکینہ، ہر سمت ہے اندھیرا، ہر راہ پر خطر ہے، ہر سمت ہے اندھیرا، ہر راہ پر خطر ہے، ہر راہ پر خطر ہے، ہر سمت ہے اندھیرا، دشمن ہے چار جانب، دل میں چھپائے کینہ، رک جاؤ اے سکینہ، رک جاؤ اے سکینہ، رک جاؤ اے سکینہ، خاکا کہ تم تماچے گھبرا گئی ہو شاید، خاکا کہ تم تماچے گھبرا گئی ہو شاید، گھبرا گئی ہو شاید، خاکا کہ تم تماچے کاشم سیکھ جاؤ ان آنسوؤں کو پینا، رک جاؤ اے سکینہ، رک جاؤ اے سکینہ، رک جاؤ اے سکینہ، آ جاؤ میں سلا لوں سر زانوں پہ رکھ کر، آ جاؤ میں سلا لوں سر زانوں پہ رکھ کر، سر زانوں پہ رکھ کر، آ جاؤ میں سلا لوں، زخمی بہت ہے بیوی تیرے پہ در کا سینہ، رک جاؤ اے سکینہ، رک جاؤ اے سکینہ، رک جاؤ اے سکینہ، امو کو جان مادر اس طرح مت صدا دو، امو کو جان مادر اس طرح نہ صدا دو، اس طرح نہ صدا دو، امو کو جان مادر عباس کی جبی پر آ جائے گا پسینہ، رک جاؤ اے سکینہ، رک جاؤ اے سکینہ، رک جاؤ اے سکینہ، رخ پر لہو جمع ہے کانوں سے خون ہے جاری، رخ پر لہو جمع ہے کانوں سے خون ہے جاری، کانوں سے خون ہے جاری، رخ پر لہو جمع ہے، بیٹا تڑپ اٹھے گا جانے شہ مدینہ، رک جاؤ اے سکینہ، رک جاؤ اے سکینہ، یا حسین 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 یا حسین، صلی اللہ محمد وآل محمد.
Bastet, can you read Ziyarat?
السلام علیکم یا ابا عبداللہ، السلام علیکم رسول اللہ. السلام علیکم امیر المومنین سید الوسین. السلام علیکم فاطمۃ الزہرا سیدۃ نساء العالمین. السلام علیکم خدیجہ الکبریٰ ام المومنین. السلام علیکم حسن مجتبیٰ. السلام علیکم عبد الحسین علی ابن الحسین اولاد الحسین واصحاب الحسین، خصوصاً سیدی مولا یا الفضل عباس ابن امیر المومنین، قاسم ابن حسن، مسلم ابن عقیل، ہانی ابن روا، حبیب ابن مرزائے، حر شہید ریاحی. السلام علیکم ساداتی معالی. السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. السلام علیکم یا غریب الغرباء. السلام علیکم معین الضعفاء الفقراء، شمس سموس انیس نفوس سلطان ابو الحسن علی ابن مرسل رضا رحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. السلام علیکم صاحب العصر والزمان المعاشرک القرآن، اجر اللہ تعالیٰ فرجک سے اللہ تعالیٰ مخرجک و ظہورک. السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. All together we'll read 5 times the Mayyujib for the health of Mu'mineen. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Those who are not well. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. أَمَّنْ يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَا يَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ وَمَن 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 يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَا يَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ. May Allah accept this majlis, inshallah. Be Fatima accept. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كنا وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة في كل ساعة، وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وإنا حتى تسكن أرضك وأتمته فيها طويلا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.